I thought he was going to do the whole doctor 15 minutes late.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, welcome everyone. Looks like our first item, we have public comments. Do we have anyone signed up for that? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is number 4, discussion of Bethany athletic programs, facilities, vision, and goals.
So this is wide open. I put everything on there I thought that you guys would want to talk about. I'm going to let John open up with a few things that to just kind of get the ball rolling. He's just going to talk a little bit about what they've done so far, and then he's got a few things that he wants to talk about, but at any time you can stop him. I know most of you went and did a tour with him, and you saw the good, the bad, and the ugly on the facilities. And you know, we've got some great facilities, and we've got some work to do on some facilities. So, and we've got some locker rooms that need some attention, and all that. Right now, we're in the best shape to do that because we've got some one-time money, and so that's a good thing to spend that kind of stuff on, as opposed to personnel. So, with that, John.
Okay. Well, there's just it was nice to get to go around with most of you, and I know some of you had said you've seen some of the places, but not every facility, and based on where you've been in the past, and so I think it was good to let everybody see. Top to bottom, I know it was extensive for those of us that went around, and so it was good. And I want to thank Ms. Tackett's not in here yet. She's going to step in from the basketball game, but I know she helped give some of those tours, and so I want to thank her for her help and those things. Just kind of wanted to start. Obviously, Most of you went around, but just, some of the things that have been done over the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years, being the farthest back we go, but then some of them as new as just recently. Obviously, we've done, in the gymnasium, we've done some, I was talking to Mr. Eichelberg the other day, pretty extensive work in terms of a completely new gym floor. If you've been in there, you'll see all the banners that have been redone in the last few years. We just kind of put the finishing touches up with the projector and then getting the state championship banners back up this last Friday. And so all of those things are obviously improvement in the gym. We did a new sound system 3 years ago or so in there, which was much needed. I think the original one of the building was still in there. We did do some renovations to the girls' locker room, the home girls' locker room, some flooring and some lockers and those kind of things. So we've done some of those types of things in the gym. Obviously, the floor that we redid allowed us to play volleyball, play 2 courts at once, and so we padded the railings on the one side to make that make that a lot safer in there for them. And then just recently, we've done some things like we put up some new signage for the restrooms. If you've ever, me and Ms. Tackett are usually the ones dealing with it, but we're trying to, get people to the restrooms in our gym and those kind of things. And when they designed that place, I don't think they put a lot of thought into where the men's and women's restroom were, and it's hard for people to find. And so we've got some new signage up for those. We just replaced the pads on the backboards. We were talking the other day. I don't think anybody would ever know those needed to be replaced unless you climbed up there and looked at it, but they were falling apart and had been repaired for numerous years, and so got all those fixed. And then kind of the last thing is the concession. We're still kind of in progress on some cabinets and countertops and those kind of things in there, but kind of rolled out some new appliances and things last Friday night at the basketball game. Hot dog machine, nacho machine, those kind of things that save a lot of space in there. And just upgraded. I think our popcorn machine was from about I think it was manufactured in about 1980. So that's been a great upgrade in there. At baseball and softball, you guys, if we went around, you saw baseball concession and press box was completely renovated about a year ago, along with the new building there that has restrooms and a garage. The softball coach's office and those kind of things. Some of that's still getting finished up out there. But just having a new bathroom facility out there was maybe the most needed thing in our whole facility, district-wide, was that restroom that we were dealing with out there in that old Tri-City building. So that's been a huge help to them. And then if you went in the garage with us, you saw the new reel mower that those baseball coaches are able to cut the ryegrass with, and we'll be able to do the same on the soccer, on the ryegrass that's down there. So that's something we just bought recently. So. A lot of things happening there, and then a crossover at the track area. It's all in storage now, but we've got some new high jump equipment that was purchased last spring. Was that purchased last spring, I believe? Got it in out of the weather right now. We just purchased one of the big green containers that does the same thing, keeps our pole vault stuff put away, so it's out of the weather. We did a new sound system there at our stadium and track, where we play track and soccer and all football except varsity. Put a new sound system in there about 2 years ago, and then got some other similar appliances for the concession out there. The last thing out there, or one of the last things in the indoor, we just did the new floor, and so I know that was the first time for some of you to see that out there. That's been a huge help, and it's going to be an even bigger help here as the cold weather rolls in to give people much more usable space, those sports that are out there in the afternoons. Just that space is usable now for a much larger group than it was, and we have more room for sports out there. A couple of other things. I know we just did, just kind of worked with the cheer program on some new uniforms, and so just doing some things like that. I know we've talked about some of those things with Mr. Eichelberger, just for our programs that don't have home athletic contests. That's difficult for some of these programs that don't have home athletic contests. They don't have gate proceeds like other sports, and so trying to do some things to help them on that. And so that's kind of a lot of the stuff that we've tried to improve and have really taken a lot of great steps forward over the last few years. some of the things that you saw as we went around. And I know there's a lot of this I mentioned as we went around, but in the gymnasium, I know the bleachers on that upper level on the home side, we've got some things to repair there. Again, those bleachers, the motors in those things they need to be replaced. They were done quite a while ago, and those are not the greatest things to begin with, those motors that put the bleachers in and out. So looking at some repairs there, looking at modernizing the backboard lighting panel. You know, the lights that turn red when the clock goes to 0, that is an older system. It's not even serviced anymore, so they do function right now, but there's kind of cords hanging everywhere, and they're crooked, and they can't really be replaced or fixed because they don't make those parts anymore. It's an obsolete system, and so I'm going to look here at doing. It's now a wireless system to put up there. So some of those things. You know, some of the things we obviously saw were just, you know, having a lack of, you know, storage space or office space for some of our coaches or our staff. And so kind of got some ideas working on that, but I know we saw that need in there. Baseball, softball, there's obviously a list of things. Some of them are major, like replacing some fencing. I really think both outfield fences are something that I know Greg has to go out yearly and repair fences and those types of things. Same thing on the chain link on the 2 fields, and so those are things we're looking at. Looking at backstop netting. The one on the baseball field really needs to be replaced pretty immediately. The one on the softball field is probably within the next couple of years. It will need it as well. And then of course we went in the baseball field that had just been renovated. And our next thing on the list is kind of to get that softball press box and concession stand renovated. Obviously, that press box certainly needs some upgrades and those types of things to make it a little more conducive to having games and those types of things. And the concession, a few things need to be done down there as well. So looking at that area. And then kind of the last thing would be, we've got the new coaches' offices for softball, but again, looking at some upgrades in their locker room. Those of you that went, you saw the baseball locker room, which is much, it's the last addition we've had to that indoor building, so it's the newest part of the building, whereas the softball one was the original addition as far as locker rooms go off that building. And so that one's kind of to the point now where it needs some work done on the ceiling and the flooring and those types of things to make it a little more, again, just some older fixtures and just, again, wear and tear over time that's occurred. That used to be, that locker room that's now softball used to be shared by every baseball and softball team out there year round, depending on who was in season. So it's just been used, had a lot of hard use for a number of years now. Some other things in the indoor, we've looked at at a new batting cage system. Right now, as you go in there, the batting cages that are in there, that's all that space can be used for because they don't move. And so looking at some options to have a system that does move out of the way so that the entire indoor space can actually be usable by whoever may need it. Again, just to kind of improve the functionality of that space, let it be used by multiple groups at different times. And again, it's on, you know, in the winters is when that's really something that needs to be done, but certainly other times of year, dependent on the weather. Still at the athletic complex, I know I showed some of you where we're kind of looking to put a new ice machine. We've got an ice machine, again, I think we bought it used about 15 years ago, and it still makes ice, just not near as fast as it once did. And it's bigger ice cubes. Kyle would really prefer one smaller pellet ice, which is better for injuries and those types of things. So looking at getting that done. Some dugouts for our soccer team, for them and the visiting team to sit under during games. That's pretty common at a soccer facility, certainly where you're going to play varsity soccer. And so that's something that would be kind of a curved structure that they would sit under, would have our logo on the back of it, and these would be things that could be moved in and out, or at least the cover taken off during certain times of year to keep them protected from the weather and things. Looked at some things. We've got some portions of our track that are kind of in disrepair, and so just, again, wear and tear we don't have the greatest surface in the world, and so just some of that's gonna happen, and so just have some places to repair before we can host anything this coming year. And then a couple other things to have track meets, some new standards and those kind of things. You know, standard is what they put the bar on when they high jump and pole vault, and we've just got some again that are pretty old, and those are pretty expensive to get a nice pair of those, something probably a little more than what the track, just the typical budget would be able to allow for there. And then kind of the last thing, just kind of in another, this is going to be used at multiple places, but our swim team, they have to swim and they don't have any, they practice at our YMCA, which is super convenient. The pool is fine for them, but they don't have starting blocks in there. And so working with them to get a starting block system so that they have a way to practice that without just having to do it, you know, when they get to a place for a meet, an hour before the meet starts. That's kind of what they do now. And so it's a portable system, so it can be taken there to the YMCA and used as they need it. So that's kind of some of the stuff we've done, that we would like to do, that we're looking at. You know, obviously right now the way things are going, it's we want to get some of this stuff done. It's a little hard to get quotes on some stuff right now. People are down in staff. They don't have many staff, and prices are obviously up on some stuff, but we're certainly doing our best to get some of those things handled. And so, anything else facility-wise that I didn't cover that you can think of?
The only thing, the scoreboards we bought in there.
Yeah.
And then, Amy, did we buy any kind of mirrors or anything for you?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wonderful.
Tell them about that actually, and how it benefits your.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, because you and I spent many hours on the phone together.
We did.
Driving back and forth downtown to look at them and all those things. 2 years after we won the state championship, we were gifted by you guys several plexiglass mirrors that were really important to our team because it's all about technique. So it covers a huge space. If you toured the facility, you saw them on the wall. So super helpful to our squad, and yeah, it was just a really great gift. So we utilized them Monday through Thursday from August 1 through December. We used the indoor facility, so we're practicing pretty much all fall, beginning in the summer through the fall, and we utilize the mirrors every time, so they're great. Thank you for those.
Thank them.
Thank you.
And I know you did. All right, so what do you guys have that you want to talk about?
Do we have I mean, so that's a lot of items. Do we have any prioritization, like what we really feel like is number one
Yeah.
versus?
Yes, we have a list that we're kind of working off of, that we've been kind of putting together for the last, 2 months or so, I would say. Some of this stuff was stuff that came up off this list that, like you said, were priorities for things that are happening now, things that are going to affect basketball, or those kind of things. And then obviously some of them are, more major purchases, like the netting system in the indoor that will lift up and down. That's a fairly, obviously a major
That's a big ticket item.
project that we found one vendor in Oklahoma that does it. We don't know any other vendors in Oklahoma that do that, and so we're having to look some out of state just to get some other quotes on something of that nature. So yeah, we've got a list that we're kind of working from now, and then we've also got what Mr. Eichelberger has termed like a wish list for things down the road that are certainly things that are maybe more wants than needs, but certainly things we would like to look into.
Okay, yeah. So what I'd like to see a prioritize list, like this is what we really want to do now. And kind of like be strategic, have a strategic plan.
Yeah, and I think the stuff that you've got ready to go later tonight is the stuff that we've prioritized as needs.
So we've got, the reason I put the financials behind this conversation is we've got about, is $250,000 worth of stuff?
I don't think it's that much because we were still waiting on some quotes.
I think the reason it's low is because that baseball netting stuff may not be on there because they get more quotes. But
On there tonight.
Yeah, so like 509 through 515
So
by the athletic.
Yes.
So we've got some things that are on his priority list now that you guys are going to vote on tonight, but I wanted you to have an opportunity for him to hear him talk about them before you actually pull the trigger on just all of those. Pretty much, I can't think of anything on your priority list that we don't have plans to buy. It's just a matter of getting the quotes and going through the process. Is there anything on there?
No, I mean, there's some other things that are on what we would term a wish list that we've
Well,
decided is.
I'll give you an example of a wish list item that I've said it's a wish right now. So we've got the scores table in here. We just put a new plexiglass thing in there that has the new emblem on it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not, it's not as new and nice. And talked to Quinn, and Quinn says, I'm the one that puts it out there, and there's nothing wrong with this. We'll just keep using this. They're about 20 grand so it's not like we won't ever do it, but I think we need to get a little bit of use out of the one that we have before we buy something else like that. And I don't remember the other things on that list, but I can send you, it's a Google Doc. Actually you'll have to give them permission to,
Sure.
yeah.
What about seat backs on the gym? We had talked about that. Is that a wish list?
Well,
item, section?
I don't know if it's that. I mean, that's really an up to you guys. I've gone back and forth. I've got one of the seat backs behind my desk right now. It's been there for 3 months, and they're actually made. They're plastic, and they've got a little netting for the back. They're comfortable. Mm-hmm. The issue is they're made for outdoors, and so they'll last through the weather. They're not going to be weathered inside. The issue is if we put that middle section of all those in there, there's going to be considerably less number of people that can sit in that middle section. So, do you remember how much that was? Was it 20 or 30 grand?
Somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah.
And so we just didn't.
Yeah.
If you guys want to do it, we can do it. If you don't want to do it,
And that's really the
It's
only
not a
option there
priority
was
at
in
the
our
moment.
current gym with how building codes and stuff have changed. If we were gonna do anything different, because those just essentially bolt onto what we already have in place, so it wouldn't necessarily go back through that process. But if we were gonna do anything different, our rows are now not wide enough, so they're gonna have to, which obviously in our gym, they're concrete, so that's why there's not really any other options other than this one thing that you bolt onto what we've already got in place.
What about, is this in your prioritization list when we talked about trying to convert some of that space up on the visitor side in the gym to extra office space, maybe reconfiguring and thinking things and getting more space for Kyle and all of that? Is that all in there as well?
It is now. Yeah, that's a great idea. Whoever's idea that was, no, that's a great idea, and I know we've talked about it more since then, so.
So I've talked with Troy and Jacob Lingo.
Okay.
And we were going to try to meet last week, and Troy's out of town. We're going to meet sometime this week or next week. As you know, you've been around building stuff before. We've got to get the idea of how much we want, what we want there, and then we've got to get Troy to draw it up, and then Stan and Jacob can tell us how much it'll cost. I think it'll be very doable unless we were to do something crazy. If we just build, take out those. That was the great idea. I think you had it. Was we were going to have to put some money in, decent money, $5,000 or more, into those stands that are up there that we never pull out or rarely pull out. I think we do in middle school whenever we have everybody in there for an assembly. Kent said, why don't we get rid of them? So if we get rid of them and we just finish that all the way across with probably, I don't know, I'm thinking that 3 offices, that may be more than that, depending on how big we make them, but those guys will know what the code is and what the the specifics are. So where we are at this moment is when I meet with them, I'll take John up there, we'll talk through all of that. They'll go draw it up, crunch the numbers, bring it back to me, I'll bring it to you, then we'll come up with a timeline. So I see, unless it's crazy high, I see no reason why we wouldn't do that. It just makes sense to me. And then I don't know if everybody knows what they talked about whenever they came up with this idea was then making John's office Kyle's place to see kids, and so it'll be on the ground level where he can, you know, wrap ankles and, you know, whatever needs to happen in there, and then everybody else, the coaches will have to go upstairs, which is no problem.
Yeah, and how many we'll need, how many offices we'll need and all of that, so.
You know, need a couple, obviously would like to look at, you know, coaches right now. I know our volleyball coaches and girls basketball coaches share currently. So getting them a little more space would probably be, you know, the first priority. But, you know, maybe even, you know, having some sort of workspace combined for coaches that don't have anywhere currently, you know, cross country or, you know, golf, or any of those coaches that maybe just need a workspace from here and
Yes.
here and there when they've got kids in the gym, or just somewhere to keep, you know, coaching material, stuff that they're going to go, that they can go and prepare for practice or whatever that may be.
So that's an option. Okay.
John, thanks for taking us on the tour, number one, and then and thanks for the reminder of everything that we've been doing, because I think that's important to see that we have been over the last couple of years adding a lot of things and staying on top of a few things that need to take place. What's important to me is as we made those or as we made that tour, just seeing, you know, some of the facilities that really do need to be addressed, you know, and thinking about our coaches and thinking about just conversations that we've had and the importance of making sure that we are providing them, you know, Eric and volleyball share an office. They need to have separate offices. I mean, if we have the space to do that, I just think it's important that we do that to whether it's them as our coaches now or in the future or whenever, that people know that coaches that are going to come here know that they're going to be taken care of in that way. I think that's a big deal. And since we have the funds, I'm glad that we are having this discussion and that we're thank you, Drew, for willingness to say, hey, let's spend some money on these things. And the coaches that have put big lists together for us and taken a lot of time. The hardest part I see right at this point is all the bids. I mean, as I went around, it's like, you know, do you find that one guy that, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I mean? It's just that a lot of work is ahead of you out at the baseball field and in the gymnasium. And
this is a unique time to be getting bids on anything.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Much less having that size of a list to do it, for sure.
Yeah. But I enjoyed our tour, and John pointed out a lot of great things just that needed to be done, and he's kind of put that list together for us today. And I hope that our coaches, if there are other things they need, that they'll, needs, right? Needs. If these are needs, let's get them taken care of.
I remember a while back, I was out at the track, and Bethany middle school or high school was running on it. Southwest Christian were doing some things in an area, and then SNU were also using it. And so that struck me because I never knew that SNU and Southwest Christian used the track facility. And so if you've ever felt that track, it feels like asphalt. Like you would not know that it is a rubber compound or something on there compared to other tracks. And so our facilities do get used by, at least that facility does get used by, other colleges and universities. And then also, I've been to an SNU football game, and I watched the opposing team walk all the way from the very last locker room that I think our middle school football uses as well. And so I just think of what that shows. Not that I'm caring about what
We really
SAU
can't make them walk further.
Yeah, that's what I
A little bit smaller.
Not quite large enough for the offensive lineman. But I just think about those facilities and the usage that they get as well, because I know soccer's going to use it now, and then middle school football used it, and then cross country, and so some of those places that get used a lot some of those were in the worst condition out of all the places that we toured, and so I think it's good that we're taking a look at this and and have the money that we're willing to help make it better for our people, not necessarily the opponents, but for our people that use it. And also, yes, thanks for taking us on a tour, because I know that took you out of other things that you could do.
And Miss Tackett as well back there.
Yes.
So one of the things we also talked about was just kind of identifying that we need a groundskeeper almost. Like we have so much real estate that I don't know, we didn't talk about this, but I mean, we really do probably need somebody full-time, I don't know, keeping up with all of that. That was something else I talked about, but.
I mean, maybe we need full-time. I'd have to talk to John about that. We've had a 4-hour person a day, and we've had 2 people out there, one that does, so it'd be 6 hours. And I don't know, Joe still cleans, right? He does 2 hours a day.
I think we had 2 people doing 2 hours a day on either side, and then the maintenance person who's doing the exterior.
And was he doing 4 hours?
4 hours, yeah.
Yeah. So we have the equivalent of a full-time person out of, 3 different people. Right now, our challenge is finding somebody to do that job.
I know.
We're just, we're gonna, with your blessing, we're gonna hire a special ed teacher's assistant tonight, and we've had that open for 2 months, Matthew, Dr. Flinton?
Couple of years.
So, and you can't just have just anybody out there. It's got to be somebody that can do the work, that run the machinery, fix the stuff. So we've been kind of limping along this year. We're hopeful to get somebody in either a half or more capacity.
Well, we've invested in the landscaping company for the campus here. Do we consider that? Contacting them?
I hadn't thought of it. I think it's certainly we need to, it's something we could ask them. It might not be them. Signature Landscape is kind of high end.
Yeah.
And what he said to me on the first day is, we won't be the cheapest, but we will be the best. And here, we're looking at flowers and plants and trees. Out there, we're looking at cut the grass, trim it, so, but there are people who are willing that do that stuff on a regular basis. So maybe we do need, you and I need to talk about that.
That's just an idea. It was kind of one of those things that we identified that when we're walking around. It's just, it needs attention. It just needed, I don't know if you all, did you go?
I was unable to.
Yeah. It was just kind of obvious. And we just have a lot. We have a lot out there that we need to take care
It's
of.
a big place.
Yeah. So that was something that I looked into, or that caught my attention, and that we kind of talked about for that.
Another staffing thing that came up when I was doing my tour, John, and I think we talked about this, was having someone available to drive the students from the school to the facilities over there, and somebody who's not a coach. How are we doing that right now? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, right now coaches drive.
Yeah.
The coaches, whoever has a 6-hour playing period, drives kids out. And it's kind of been probably about 2 years now since we've had somebody again. It's a hard role to fill. Who wants to come work for 30 minutes or a day? It's a hard role to fill. for sure.
The issue there is the CDL.
Mhm.
So we've got more kids to move out there than what a people mover can move.
Right.
And so we need a bus, and to do that, you need a CDL. And if you do know of a CDL person that's available right now, tell them to contact me, because we could use them in several areas. And they're impossible to find. Like, city doesn't have them, Moore doesn't, I mean, they're just,
Yeah.
it's difficult to get a CDL anyway. It takes a lot of work. And, you know, it's frustrating. This is just a caveat, but Kylie just went through it. Kylie got her CDL last year for us so that she could move those kids, elementary kids, from the elementary over to the church after school every day, or when Ruben can't do it. And they literally have to know stuff that, like, mechanics know. Like, you know, you got to know what a drive shaft is. Now, I know some of you go like, I know what a drive shaft is. If you don't know what a drive shaft is, you're like, well, I guess it's by the flywheel, you know. So it's a challenge. That's a huge challenge. Personnel for us, as well as everybody else, is a challenge. I'll tell you, I don't say this very loudly, I know we're live streaming, but we're blessed compared to many districts with respect to personnel, because we create a culture that people want to stay here. To your point, Kent, we want to make sure that our coaches, just like our teachers, just like our TAs, just like our administrators, all feel like we care about you, we're going to listen to you, we're going to do what we can to get you what you want, because we want you to stay. So, you know, no joke, if you're talking to somebody and you hear somebody say, yeah, I got a CDL, I just watch Jerry Springer every day, tell him to come see me.
All right.
What's Mary Ann doing after school every day?
She's still driving.
She's trying for a PC. Maybe we need to recruit her for Bethany.
Mornings and afternoons still. She has a neighbor that could talk to her, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Really?
maybe.
Yeah.
After prior release from there. She's been there a long time.
She serves
But
salad
since
and
before we moved there.
Wow.
Okay, so let me confirm too. So our sources, so cheerleading like kind of falls in the gray area where you don't have gate and you don't. So it's just fundraisers. So for your sport, every coach is responsible for raising money for their sport. So it's gate and fundraising through their players, and that's it, because we're not funding anything from
Well, we've tried to like on band and cheer, we try to pay for half of their uniforms, and that's what we've done. Did you order your uniforms?
Competition uniforms.
Really nice competition uniforms. We paid for half of that. She's fundraising the other half. We have done that with band in some cases. If they don't have any money, we just pay for it. We just do what we have to do, you know.
Is that how we're handling it?
Same thing. I met with John and Ken on cross country. He doesn't work here, so he doesn't know how the stuff works. And he was the most humble human I've ever met. And he was like, well, you know, it's not that we need new uniforms. It's just, John said, you need new uniforms.
Yes.
And I said, just get them ordered. Well, the issue is not get the uniforms ordered. The issue is nobody can get them here for a year. I'm not a year. I mean, however long, it takes a long time to get them.
Pretty close.
Same thing with the girls' basketball. I talked to Kylie today, and she said, our uniforms are getting ragged. I said, let's get them ordered. And I was thinking, you know, we'll have them on there by the time they get down to the games this weekend. No, it won't be this year. So the point of all that is to tell you that we've got great people who make do with the stuff that we give them. And if we don't go out periodically and ask the question that you brought up, tell us about athletics. Tell us about, they rarely come to you and say, I need it. Some will, occasionally, you know, will come and say, hey, I need this. But for the most part, they just do, because that's what teachers do. They just go in their classroom and they make do, or they buy it, or, you know. So we need to do a better job, all of us. Drew being the top one, to ask questions to all of our, not just athletics, but all of our other clubs and organizations, to say, what do you have, what do you need, and then we prioritize, you know.
Yeah, so, I have so many questions now, it just keeps, something you say leads to something
Oh,
else. Like,
no.
I know. For instance, with Ken, who's not on campus, so do we have an onboarding, have we developed, so like this conversation for me is even bigger, like, have we developed a program for onboarding coaches? You know, what are our processes in place for supporting coaches? Those are, you know, like, just a whole thing beyond the facilities.
Do we have a specific program? No, because a lot of times we're in a position where it may be one head coach a year. And so now we have had some turnover here recently.
Right.
And so, you know, Lisa and I do a lot of the training just ourselves. And then obviously our business office staff, you know, trains them on what they need to do there, and which is different than a lot of school districts. And so that's what's different for a lot of new people. And then, but again, I think what you mentioned is something one of our coaches put down, is having some sort of a boot camp or something for coaches to learn all that. And so that's certainly a good idea to have something in place to train them on our processes and procedures, because it's certainly different. I mean, we're one of the few schools that don't have outside booster clubs, and so they've got to be trained in how to
This
use
is the
them.
next thing to talk about.
Yeah, and that's, they've got to be trained in, because you know, as a coach, I think I like not having to deal with an outside booster club, but there's certainly some processes that you have to know how to do correctly to make that work.
John, has your office assistant started yet?
Where are we? This
Great.
is day 6.
Excellent, very good.
Plugging along.
Yeah,
And
very good.
That was something that I noticed that when I walked in, I was like, whose desk is just sitting up there on that second level, you know? And I saw it was Kelsey's desk, I was like, which made the expansion and more offices even
Right.
more,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know,
Critical.
and,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, hopefully having her on staff in that position will be able to free up some time and allow that, you know, to happen more as far as onboarding and getting people access to what they need.
That was a lot of the idea when we as a team and John talked about what can we do. You know, we need more John. We don't have more John. John's teaching classes, and we also need him to teach classes. So I didn't really want to give that up, because I've got to be a cheerleader for the athletics, but also for the academics. And we've got a great teacher in John. We want to keep him in the classroom. So can we get somebody to do some of those other things? And I think what it's going to do is free John up to do some more, spend more times at different practices, go to practices more, have more midterm conversations with coaches throughout the year, rather than just your end of year stuff. That's what we talked about?
Sure.
So
Do we have that?
That's great.
Do we have like a job description for our AD?
That's a great question. I'm sure we do somewhere.
I don't know that we have one. I could certainly have one from district next door pretty soon.
I mean, we're kind of unique. Maybe
You know,
do our own.
rather than recreate the wheel, you take a wheel and then you make it your own. So we can get something and then take off the things that we don't even do. You know, if it says wrestling's probably not going to apply, right?
Yeah, I know.
And then and what he does stuff, and Lisa, they do things that are just, I don't even know what they do. You know, they just do stuff. There's so much that has to be done. Same thing for the coaches. Same thing for our teachers. They all they do the things that make this a great place to be for kids, because we've got great people that do great things. Are we perfect all the time? No. No, we're not. But we'll keep trying.
Back to so you brought up the booster. Do we want to talk about that? Is there anything, do you have any, your point of view is sometimes that's difficult to deal with, we talked about that.
There's
Pros and
There's
cons.
pros and cons to everything,
Mhm.
and I think that's one that I've, you hear of other schools that have this, and there's some good to it, but there's some not so good to it as well.
Well, I think one of the things I see is it just depends on your program and it depends on the coach how parents are involved. It just really varies at Bethany. Do we want to keep it that way? Do we want to outline what that looks like? Is there something that we can do? Do you guys know what I'm saying? Like,
I think I know what you're saying in that since all of our sports are self-sufficient,
yes,
each coach is in charge of their budget and
Right.
what they do. And so, where one coach may bring in a group of parents that, assist with fundraising and ideas on how to, do things, whether it's meals for kids, before and after games, it may not get done the exact same in another sport. And so
yes,
just because, again, it's not all coming out of the same pot, like it is in some places. It's each one kind of dealing with their own parents and their own sport, and some sports lend itself to different things than others.
right.
And so,
Right, and sometimes, yeah, it just depends on communication and all those things and the group of parents that's going through, and then, sometimes things drop through the cracks, and then it's like, oh, well, the parents should be doing this, and it's like, oh, but nobody ever told me, I didn't know. And then, so I wonder at what level we could address some of those things. Like, when I talked about this being like a comprehensive approach, I'm trying to think of all these things, how we can make athletics better for everyone. So what does that look like? Do we have processes for everything? What do you guys think?
Everything meaning what?
Do we have something across the board? I don't know, like.
I think that was something that we thought that Kelsey could help with, to try to maybe.
See where we are and maybe streamline or,
Like if we're getting T-shirts from this place, from this sport, and then T-shirts from this place and this sport, maybe try to streamline that.
right.
Or fundraising, hey, here's some ideas that we learned from here, and we can do those. That was what my understanding was of some of the things that she could help us with.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing too would be just coaches visiting with each other maybe before the school year started. And if they had an idea of like the plan of, okay, we're going to do a pancake breakfast this weekend, so there is some communication between sports so that there's not conflict in that as much as possible, and I don't know how we could do that, but I think that would be helpful. And that may again be something that just calendaring that Kelsey could help with in that position. I don't know.
With I know several board meetings back, you all put a lot of effort into creating the facilities agreement and revenue from the facilities. For example, if our basketball, the middle school gym seems to be used a lot by some organization, where does that revenue go? Is that going into the basketball budget? Is it just going to the general athletic budget? How does that work?
As far as I know, it goes in the general fund, right? But are we even charging these?
We have one group that's paying,
Okay.
and they've paid twice so far this year, and those two checks have both gone in the general fund. So, which is something that we need to discuss how that's gonna then be divvied out. What we've done in the past, for instance, the stadium cleaning, SNU sends a check, it goes in the general fund, and then we then let that coach purchase however much they raised out of the general fund for their sport. So I assume it would be something along those lines.
Okay. I know that in the survey that we received, someone mentioned that the the resurfacing of, for example, the basketball floor came out of the basketball budget, I guess. Is that right? When in fact, it's used by a lot of different groups.
Yeah.
And so I
It
don't-
has in the past.
Okay,
It won't in the future.
great.
That's good.
Sometimes we get caught up in doing what you do because you've always done it.
Sure.
And when you take a step back and look, you go, that may not be what we need to do anymore. So we're not going to do that anymore. I agree, 100%.
The other thing is, with our community, I know the football program does a great job of really canvassing the community and working with businesses and fundraising, right? And has there been any thought into maybe cross-marketing where a business that supports football for an additional cost of whatever supports basketball and soccer and I mean the signage out at the football games, there's a lot there, and I'm just wondering, how are we communicating with the businesses within our community, and how are we treating them, right? I mean, how can we work together with a team with them, work as a team with them?
No, that'd be a great thing to get going, is be able to package those things together. I think it's kind of what we've talked about, the time for whoever, is gonna do that.
Sure.
Has been, I know Coach Forster does
A lot.
He does all of our football, ad sales and those kind of things during that. And we all know he's got 42 other jobs around here as well. So, but again, with our new position, this may be able to free up some time. We've drawn up some contracts, and we've not contracts, agreements, and presented them to some people in the past, and about becoming, title sponsors or something like that, of just the department or of various events. And so certainly we could have some time now to look into things like that. But yeah, I think it's great.
Just more of
Great
John.
idea to get- Sure, but, that's, hopefully we can get to that point.
Sure.
It'd be great to have somebody to fund our athletic website, and be a title sponsor on there that can, again, cover the cost of some of those things, and then, of course, go above and beyond that to help others, other sports.
We'll say, John, thank you for taking the time to survey your coaches and ask them these questions that you did, and then sharing that with us. I think this would be great to do maybe every year, because I know we're not going to get all of this done, right in the next 6 months. It's going to take some time, but there will be things that come up, that we'll see, or new things that come along that we might want to consider. So I think this would be great to just make it be a regular look at our programs.
Yeah, I thought the coaches survey was really good. Do we want to survey parents?
So tell me
Yeah,
what the purpose would be for that. Like, what are we going to get out of that? I know some of what we'll get out of that.
Well, if there's constructive feedback about how we can make things better, they're a big part of the equation of what makes us successful. So I would think we want to hear what they have to say. They're the ones that are doing fundraisers, they're the ones that are working things, they're the ones who are helping too. So I think they're a big part of the equation. I can't imagine why we wouldn't ask do you have ideas for fundraisers? Do you have ideas for helping us? Do you know businesses? What do you think that looks like?
Would guess that I'm kind of at a loss for what questions you would ask, because we know the things that we're going to do. What you just said, if you're going to ask questions like, do you have ideas for fundraisers? I'm open to anything. If you want to, if you feel like you've got the questions that you want to ask, write the questions, send them to me. We'll get them to John, or not to John. We'll get them out too, because it's to everybody, right? It's not just athletic parents; it's parents. Right?
Yeah, I do feel like on the athletics level that does come from the coaches currently. So at least for what I've seen, coaches have asked parents, do you know what businesses might be interested? Do you have ideas for fundraising? I mean, I've seen that, I guess, at a smaller level, not to say that
Yeah,
we
and
shouldn't
that's why
survey,
I'm saying
but I've
that-
seen it.
But maybe some coaches might need more support from a higher level.
I see
That's
what
what I'm
you're
saying, like, maybe shifting our focus from just always just hanging it on the coaches, always, you know, maybe that's part of it, but can we go up a little bit higher and say, one of the ways we're gonna support you is this is what we do at Bethany Athletics. Like, it's not just your responsibility, but we're gonna support you, and we're all trying to move forward as well. Does that make sense? I mean, I feel like this is just a beginning conversation. It's like a process. But
It has opened the door for a lot of
yeah,
conversation, a lot of thoughts and ideas that maybe haven't had in a long time.
Yeah,
that we
absolutely.
never had. That I know of.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, one thing I know for sure is that John is wide open to, I mean, he wants what we want. We want a strong athletic program that has a lot of structure, but also gives coaches the ability to do the things they need to do. You know, as you were talking, I was thinking some coaches would love some of those things, a little structure
Yeah.
above, and others would hate it because they want to be able to do the things that they want to do, you know. So we got to kind of think through that, and the guy to do that is John and his coaches. So we'll talk about, you can talk to your coaches about what would be good and what would not be good. Anything else?
Is there anything on vision or goals besides the facilities that you want to share?
You know, I think a couple of things that came up on the survey as well. If you look down, I don't remember what question it was, but one of those on there was, you know, just doing, giving coaches some tools and some resources, you know, for leadership development, you know, how to become, how to develop, you know, kids in other ways. And I think that's something that's obviously super important. It's part of our vision is to, you know, we want kids who are, you know, just on the field success is not, it's just, it's not really the main thing we're after. And I've always kind of felt as a coach that if you've got kids who really work hard and they're really committed and they're great teammates and they do things right and they make good decisions off the court or the field, they're going to be successful. You're going to be successful on the field if you've got a team of people that do those things. And so that's certainly something, you know, again, giving coaches some of those tools. We're in a unique position right now. 3 of our coaches aren't here during the day, 3 of our head coaches. And so that makes, you know, having coaches meetings and those kind of things somewhat difficult, but we'll have to do it other times a year, but, you know, leading into or out of seasons. But again, if we can provide resources, we've got some of those and, you know, can certainly do that in the future.
I'm glad you said that, John, because he's too modest to say what he needs to say, which is his football program does a phenomenal job of character development with kids, and I believe, and we talked about this, about expanding that across, not making it everybody's got to do it like football, but everybody's got to have some character development as part of their athletics or organization. And I think that is something that I know I would certainly support, and I'm open to listening to what you guys have to say about that. I can't imagine anybody want to have a conversation.
I think
about
that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, those are areas that I think are ongoing and always need to be addressed. And if that's through seminars, through the Oklahoma Coaches Association, I don't know what it might be, but those are certainly, I agree with you. If we have kids that are doing the right things and they're doing the right thing, you know, you're going to have some success, or at least success that I count as success.
Especially since we have so many students that play multiple sports. You know, if they get it here and they get it here and they get it here, minute, you know, they're getting it multiple times during the year to help continue that
And
character
also,
building.
sorry, one of the things that we did this year along kind of with their evaluation that they get on a yearly basis is we've kind of asked them to provide some of their, you know, what are their core values for their program? What are the character traits that they want to see their kid? And so I've started to kind of get some of those in, and I know some of them have, you know, all of our coaches have had those a lot of the time, but it's when it becomes something you emphasize, that's when it really starts to matter even more than it did. And so just seeing that kind of emphasized with them has been good so far this year, and we're not even halfway through. But again, it's an area, like Mr. Wallstead said, you've got to keep going forward in that area or you're going backwards. And so kind of keep developing yourself in that way is what we're after.
Anything from the coaches? I know we've got coaches.
1, 2, 3.
I know Eric was in here. He stepped out.
Coach Lee stepped in.
Yeah, I saw
Did
Coach
y'all
Lee
see
back
that?
there.
Yeah.
You were late.
Again, I think it goes back to we're blessed right now to have the funds to be able to do some of these things. We've never been in this situation, and that's why I liked hearing what we've done over the last couple of years, because we've done all those things, and I don't think because we do them piecemeal. We piecemeal them together, and with this particular dollars, we're going to be able to do a bunch at once. And what Drew has done to the facilities around here, the outside of the buildings, and I mean, it's just it just is fantastic. And what goes along with that is supporting these coaches, getting them offices, giving them nice chairs to sit in, not milk crate desks like I saw. I mean, it's just, let's do it right.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time
Yeah,
to
John,
go
thank
through
you
all
so
of
much.
this and work with all the coaches to get it put together. So, thank you. All right. Did we have any other discussion on this? I think we'll continue
Oh, yeah.
this for sure.
Mhm.
It's a big task.
Thanks, coaches, for being here.
Yeah. Thank you very much. All right. Drew, did you have anything else on that?
No, I agree that it's a good thing, good conversation to have, and we need to continue the conversation. I think the yearly survey is a good idea. I think that we just need to continue to think and talk. There will always be a good idea, and we just need to talk about it. And sometimes what I believe is a good idea might not be a good idea to the person that actually does the work. That you've heard me say a lot about the people closest to the problem are the best equipped to solve the problem. That's why I think we need to always make sure that before we solve a problem for the coaches, we need to ask the coaches if they want that problem solved. You know.
Yeah.
So we just talk to them, and
Yeah.
that's what we'll do.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. We will move on
Thanks,
then.
John.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you.
everybody.
Move on then to item number 5, our consent agenda. And we'll start with discussion and action on the minutes of the November 1st regular board meeting. Did anyone have any changes to that? No. Okay. Jennifer, move on to the financial fund reports.
Okay, starting on page 7, the activity fund. So page 7 is just the summary. It's kind of in that new format that we talked about last time, so it matches with the new report. And then behind that are the details on the individual accounts. So this is a great place to reference if you are trying to determine sort of the revenue that goes through the sports accounts or any of the activity funds. This is definitely where you want to look each month. Questions on any of that? Okay, starting on page 14 is the general fund revenue. Under district sources, our taxes are $266 down from last year. Interest is $4,884 down. Those next three, kind of the monies that we actually bring in directly to the school, not direct deposits, that is actually up $27,194, and that is primarily the foundation grants. They went around and awarded those today to all the teachers, so we'll start seeing those POs coming through next month, I'm sure. And then child nutrition is our local, and it is up $31.90. So that's the a la carte stuff that the kids can purchase daily. So totals, district sources are up $25,000. Intermediate county formula is down $22.33. Mortgage tax is up $10,600. And so total intermediate, we are up $8,366. Under the state, gross production is up $6,862. A motor vehicle is up $70,965. School land is down $12,099. Vehicle stamp is up $216. Foundation and incentive is up $61,513. And then our flexible benefit allowance is down $11,896. And those were just positions that were not filled at the beginning of the year that we couldn't count. Textbooks and family and consumer sciences have stayed the same as last month. So total state, we are up $186,207. On page 15 is our federal. Due to COVID, the Indian Ed federal funding dates sort of changed on us. Usually it's June 30th. This year it was October. So we filed a claim, and so that collection of $61.51 that you see there was those funds that came in. And then the next category, the $4,200, there was an additional $2,519 from last fiscal year that came in for Indian Ed funds. MeChip is up $1,211 from last month, and that was a refund on airfare that they did not get to attend their conference. It was when Southwest was kind of going through and canceling a bunch of flights, and theirs just happened to be one of them. So, child nutrition is up $64,605. So total federal sources are up $74,486 from last year, which brings our grand total revenue up $1,173,000 from last year. Questions on any of that? Okay, starting on page 16 are the encumbrances for your approval. Those kind of right off the bat, 474, 475, 476, those are all things that have been voted on recently, the air ionizers and the landscaping. We did 2 POs to the landscapers because one is all the major work they're going to do, and one is just the monthly recurring that we'll continue on. Questions about any of those on the first page?
Are they finished? Is Veritech, are they finished installing those?
They are.
I've seen some around. Okay.
And we received, I believe it was last week, a little ionizer tester, so that, you know, when we're bored, we can go around and go in the rooms and see what's happening with that. But yes, they are done. On page 17, on 504, A&M Mechanical, we have some HVAC units that are just really old units. We have already replaced 3 in the middle school this year because they're just breaking down and we can't replace those old parts. So with some of these federal dollars, we decided it's a good investment to go ahead and replace those oldest units across the district. So we have 12 of those left. Most of them are original to when the buildings were built. So 6 of those are elementary. We have 1 more for the middle school and then 5 for the high school. And that amount includes the units, the curbing for some of them, the crane service to come. We're hoping we can coordinate it where we can get them all here and the crane here and do a mass install on the roof, but we'll have to see how all of that works out.
I know, Jennifer, I know that there was maybe 6 months ago or so, we did a bulk purchase, right, and saved some dollars. Were we able to do that with this particular purchase? Or?
Yes.
with buying 12 at once.
Yeah, I think we saved like $8,000 on those ones we did at the elementary. And we hadn't talked about how much you saved, but I assume, because we're buying from the same people, so I assume by buying in bulk. I don't
Yeah,
know, do you
the
know?
3 that we've replaced this year, I believe totaled about 27,000. So if you compare that to the 12, it's a good discount.
Did we get the middle school air conditioning fixed,
Yeah.
Trey? Okay,
The
good.
Curbing came in, and I think they ordered extra, knowing that that was gonna be an issue moving
Yeah.
forward, and so everything's running well.
Good. We don't need it today, but
Yeah.
I'm glad you have it.
Well,
The heaters today.
the major advantage to doing this, because we can,
Mhm.
is these things are gonna go out this winter. We're gonna have heaters out, and we're gonna have cold kids, but we're taking the preemptive strike, and this is something Jennifer's kind of
Yeah.
pushed for, and it's gonna be, we're not gonna have cold kids, because, I mean, I'm not saying none of our other ones will ever shut down, but I know the old ones that would've won't.
Yeah, it's good.
We do have a couple of things that we talked about, that 508 to 515 are sort of the athletic stuff that we had pricing on that we could go ahead and get POs for that are on that needs list. And so those total 38,000. There's a few others kind of mixed in for the concession equipment and stuff that John was addressing that we went ahead and ordered for basketball so it would get here in time. So that's another 6,600 that's on this list for them. And then I have one request on PO 503. We have some critters living at the baseball softball fields, and we thought we had one kind of critter and we have more than one. So now we've found armadillos. Just so if we continue to find more things and we don't have to wait a month to pay him, if we could increase that to 1,000. The 500 covers everything he's done so far, but just, we assume there's more coming with the cold weather as well.
Do we have biology field trips out there?
Yep, I do. I mean, we've got the science guys here, so.
I can show you pictures that you don't want to see. This guy, so part of the problem, Coach Lee was saying, we've got mole trails out there all over, and you step in a mole trail, you go down to you're going to tear somebody's ankle up. So I knew a guy that has done some critter work for me, and he came out and he got a bunch of moles. And then he sent me a picture over the weekend, right? And said, you've got a problem with armadillos, and they're literally just like little pigs. They're just tearing up the grass. And he said,
And the baseball field's looking good. I mean, the grass is coming in. It's looking really good.
so anyway, we've just got to do what we got to do
Yeah.
on that deal.
Yeah.
And we're out there where this is not a one-time fix. We're out there in that wilderness. We're always going to
Yeah.
have critters coming into that area, but we're just going to have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, questions about anything on there?
So you need them in the motion to make that.
To modify that.
Yes,
Okay.
$10,000, yeah, PO 503.
Okay.
Jennifer, on 505, what's the status on the door controls? Is that finished or still in process?
The only one currently working is the front of the middle school. We had them super rush, and I was calling every day because we had a key incident. So they got that one working for us. As far as I know, it's working pretty well.
Absolutely.
The rest, I know they're still working on installing, like the admin, they came and it was the wrong part again for the doors, so they haven't even installed the internal pieces inside. So I don't know, Adam, have you heard a target date on it?
No, they'll probably get some done. Like, I know we're replacing some doors and we're waiting on hardware and stuff for that to come in so we can get the right closers and stuff for that. So some of those pieces might linger on for a little while, probably until we get all that finalizing. But I think everything that we have has been installed. It's just, I think that they're having some staffing issues at United Systems, and they, a lot of schools are calling them too. So I think, it's a scheduling thing for them. If we can get the guys out here and get them working on it, I think it could be You know, the ones that are installed, I think we can get those up and running pretty quick, so.
Thanks.
Okay, page 18 is just the total of those income notices. Page 19 is the function summary for general fund. Our expenses are currently at 83.77% of our appropriated amount this year. Last year at this time, we were at 83.76, so we are 0.01% more this year, so we're right on target from last year. Page 20 is the building fund. That is exactly the same as it looked last month. That appropriated amount comes from our estimate of needs, and there's been no deposits or payments, so the balance is the same. Next is the bond fund. It is exactly the same as last month as well. Nothing encumbered. We've already spent that out, so the balance remains the same. Page 22 is the sinking fund. We deposited $2,428 and ad valorem taxes, and so that balance went up to $212,803.45 from last month. And then on page 23, you've got a request for the sophomore class to do bake sale goods, baking candy sales to raise money for prom.
All right. Thank you. Does anyone have any more questions on that? Or do we have a motion to
Move
approve?
approval of item 5 with an increase of additional $500 on PO 503.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Pettit,
Yes.
Wallstack.
Yes.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. Let's move to item number 6, which is staff reports.
Mr. Flint, you noted 300 students. How does that compare to where we've been in the past?
We're up a little bit. Actually, the enrollment across the street, the Children's Center, is up a little bit. So, but we've been around that number for the last few years.
Okay.
But that's special services with across the street, on site, speech. We've got a lot of kiddos that are in that kind of under that umbrella.
One other thing I noted on the on your annual report, you note that we received a very low risk. I would assume that's the lowest.
Yes.
Of
That's the first tier.
the first tier.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's their annual review. And as you remember, probably the last year and a half as we went through COVID, there were a couple areas with child find and early childhood outcomes, some areas that we were working on. And so we made improvement in those areas. And so it was a good report, in compliance and moving forward.
Perfect. Excellent.
We do have a lot of good things going on. I was excited to see at the middle school the goal of raising 50 bags or acquiring 50 bags of food, and we ended up with 90 bags. That's excellent.
We're excited about it.
And so does that go to our food bank here at the
Correct.
school for
Yeah,
our
we've done
families?
it to the Oklahoma Food Bank in the
Uh-huh.
past, and they've picked it up and stuff. But since Miss Albright is doing that up here, we just took it across the building, and our families are reaping the benefits of those things. So.
That's excellent.
Yep.
And then I think high school student council is doing another thing for Christmas, right? That's great.
They helped 28 families at Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Lots going on at the elementary school. Lots of fun. Elf on the Shelf, Santa Claus, candy canes, and assessments, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. All going on at the same time. This time of year. One thing that's not in there that you were talking about the food drive. I didn't have the numbers when I submitted the report, but we raised on our food drive that we partner with the high school, middle school, elementary, raised over $1,800 just in
Wow.
funds for the food drive, and then separate from that, 7,914 items like cans that were brought. Just amazing. It got a little bit competitive. I think that helped.
That's good.
But it really drove a great food drive. I just didn't have those numbers to put in there, so I wanted to let you guys know too. So.
That's excellent.
That is
Yeah.
remarkable.
And how does that all get distributed?
Regional food bank.
Regional food bank,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's a partnership with the regional food bank. Yeah, she came and accepted the check on Friday roundup, so it's good.
Cool.
It's very good.
Mark, you make mention of math tutoring. Tell me a little bit about that. I know later on we see where we're spending some ESSER funds on math and I think a little bit all sorts of tutoring. But tell me a little bit about.
That's just trying to address the learning loss,
Okay.
in the math area.
Okay.
So basically, we've kind of come forward and committed to, letting our teachers identify, which students may need extra help if they come to request for tutoring. So we're just kind of putting the best foot forward there, giving our teachers opportunity to address some of that learning loss.
Is there any specific time of the day that's taking place? What?
They can do that like after school.
Okay.
They can really do it, through Zoom lessons if it's on the weekend or that type of thing. But, a lot of teachers can do that at lunch as well.
Yeah. I know at our house we're the beneficiary of Miss Tackett and
Yes.
and weekends and abusing her time. So
Right.
thank you, Miss Tackett.
Yeah.
And all of the math teachers that I saw that are listed on there. So we're seeing success with that. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's a big push.
it's
And, it's a real thing, just still trying to get caught up
Mhm.
from what we missed out on, some gaps.
great.
The other thing that was, I thought was cool was the interview with a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah, that was really neat.
So who participated in that?
That was all of the junior class.
Okay.
It was, through American history. Miss McAnally teaches the American history and does a fantastic job. But she set that up. So basically, during the time of that call, instead of doing it, 6 hours a day, we had it one time, and it was in the auditorium. And, they all came down, but it was
That's great.
an incredible opportunity to be able to hear someone's firsthand story and to be able for them to ask the questions once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
There's a link on the website too if you want to watch it.
Okay.
It's on the front page there.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, there's not very many survivors left.
Losing more and more.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions or comments on the staff reports?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Move on to item number 7. Discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the following contracts and agreements for fiscal year 22. A, Bethany First Church of the Nazarene Facilities Use Agreement for SLP Conference. B, Bethany First Church of the Nazarene Family Life Center Membership Agreement. C, Memorandum of Understanding with Bethany First Church of the Nazarene for Bethany First Church After School Program. D, Children's Center Agreement. E, Filament Essential Services Renewal Agreement for Bethany High School Athletic Department, Web Hosting and Custom Mobile App. And F, U.S. Cellular Service Agreement.
So this facilities use agreement, or has anything changed from last year? Or do we just,
SLP conference.
yes.
BFC requires us to do that for every event we hold on over there.
Okay.
So it's the same as
Same,
it
okay.
has been all year. Just a different event.
I'm excited about this corporate membership agreement with the FLC. I think that's fantastic. I wish we could have done it a long time ago. I think it's great. I hope our staff takes advantage of that. I hope they do. So thank you for organizing that.
That's a great rate too.
Yes, it's a great deal. Then on this memorandum of understanding, is this related to memorandum with the church for the after school program? Is this related to the grant that we've applied
It is.
for? Okay.
Mhm.
And this is just fulfilling the terms of that.
And
Okay.
he's been through it. He's made a couple changes, but they've done all the work. They're going to be the beneficiary of the money,
Right.
but they're helping us by taking care of our kids after school for free. So I mean, I think they charge them a little bit now for like $100. So you can't get that
Yeah.
anywhere else. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's great.
And the agreement with Filament really is to get us more on a fiscal year, is that right? And then, because it's just a short contract.
Yes, it was a renewal, and one of the things that the auditor brought up last year was that we needed everything to align with our fiscal year, so we're just trying to stay on top of them and make that happen this year. So when they come back, we can show them we're doing what they asked.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
And then the Children's Center agreement is just standard renewal from what we have.
Nothing changed on that, and it's a good thing.
Yes, it
Good
is a good
agreement.
thing. Yeah. All right. Does any-
Approval items.
Second.
All right, roll call vote.
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
All right, item number 8, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the estimate for the new storm shelter furniture from Real Media FX in the amount of $159,075 to be paid from bond funds.
So Adam has done a lot of work on this, but he is sat down with is Joey the owner of this company or just a rep? And the teachers. And so what we ask is along the same lines of ask the people who are closest to the problem. We ask the teachers, what do you want in your classroom? What do you want that to look like? And so we did that with the architect, and we did that with the Jacob whenever he started putting things in there. And some of those rooms, as you saw, are a little different than others, but they're going to be really good spaces for what's in there. And we think that we have some good furniture coming in that it won't look like your typical furniture, like a regular classroom with desk in it for the most part. There'll be more tables and seating, and but it's not cheap. This is what we do.
And the estimate that we received, is that basically for the entire facility?
That's right.
I know that it does state estimate on here, so what are we thinking that?
He's got those 6 classrooms and then the 6 smaller rooms. All that is
Included in
that.
Okay.
And will we get these things in a timely manner?
Yes, yeah. From what I understanding, yeah. As soon as we're today.
But we-
plan.
occupancy's in the fall,
Fingers
right?
crossed.
Occupancy's in the fall.
Yes.
Well,
Of the-
not really.
Right after spring break.
Oh.
Yeah, they hope to turn that building over to us in the middle of February.
Oh my
But we're not going to say to our teachers, you have to move, because like Miss Tennyson is all set up. She really, I don't think, wants to move until the end of the year. But we've got people that do want to move. Like, we've got in-school suspension in a hallway. He's going to be happy to move in there, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know whether Megan's going to want to, don't you have Megan going? I don't know, is she going to move in? So we'll have a number in there. We'll have a few that are not. When we look at the behavior specialist, she'll be out there, correct? Y'all figure that out? So, she'll be in February, so it's a good thing.
It was hard finding pictures of these things, but I finally found them, and the things that I saw, the tables and things, looked really cool with the
I can
shapes.
share the
and-
renders too. Yeah, I should have.
Sarah, share that with them, or is that on a Google Doc?
Yeah.
Okay, so just share it with, and you've got their emails just share that. Yeah, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at what we're gonna have in there.
It's cool that you asked the teachers too, because that's the first thing I was like, why are there so many different things here when there's just like 20 of these, 30 of these? So that's pretty cool.
They're all different colors
Almost.
too. So there's
All right.
We only have 2 classrooms that are actual teacher classrooms out there. Well, do you have 4th and 5th, or do you put in 2
They'll be
5th?
both 5th and the new ones, and then.
Okay, so there are 2 5th grade that are classrooms, but they move all day long. And they want, classes don't look the way they used to look. And so they want them to look a certain way, and it really has a lot to do with the teacher that's in there. Then you've got a special ed classroom, and that's certainly not the way it used to be. And you don't want those kids in just rows. So I'm proud of what Adam's done and what they've done with those teachers, because I really think it'll be exactly what they want. Miss Tennyson's a big winner. That's a cool classroom. We put in some good stuff for those kids.
Good. All right, do we have a motion?
Move approval of item 8.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Item number 9, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the amendment to the American Fidelity Plan Serve 403B plan document.
Move approval, item 9.
Second?
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Item number 10, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the following out-of-town, out-of-state overnight trips. A, robotics to attend the first robotics regional competition in Tulsa, Oklahoma on April 6th through 9th, 2022, and the first national competition in Houston, Texas on April 20th through 23rd, 2022, with expenses to be paid using STEM activity funds. B, Becky Morris to attend the Ready to Lead and Nuts and Bolts symposiums in Stillwater, Oklahoma on June 20th through 24th, 2022, with expenses to be paid from the general fund. C, high school students to travel to Israel for 3 weeks during the 2022-23 school year, December dates to be determined, with expenses to be paid out of the high school activity fund.
Move approval, item 10?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
Item 11, discussion and possible action to approve or not to approve the formation of a middle school newspaper club sponsored by Jessica Langbart.
Move approval, item 11?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
And item 12, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstad.
Yes.
During executive session, only members of the board and superintendent were present. The only items discussed were those listed on the agenda and no votes were taken. So do we need to vote? on that?
For
I can't
the
remember.
A through I.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move approval, item 12A through I?
Second?
Roll call vote?
Jaggers.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Pettit.
Yes.
Wallstack.
Yes.
Great. Do we have any new business?
No new business.
Oh, do we?
Mm-mm.
No, we don't.
Okay. Item number 14, information items.
We're going to
Halftime of the boys game.
honor you guys on the 18th of January. You haven't been around this, but the board comes to the basketball game. You'll probably be there anyway. And we give you something nice and say some nice things. And we'll do that again on the 18th at halftime of the boys game.
Okay. Great. Item 15, board member comments.
Well, I want to say congratulations to Mrs. Palmer who
Yeah.
walked on
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Saturday, got her master's degree, and
Thanks.
Mr. Bellows and Dr. Bellows is not here to congratulate him officially, but that's exciting.
Thanks.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Superintendents report.
So, I wanted to give you a little update on a couple of things that we've got going. First is the landscape project. They've done all the initial tree trimming. Remember, they were going to make those an even level. They've done that. They worked today pulling out a bunch of trees that actually they cut them down. They haven't taken out the roots yet. They've done some irrigation work. We have some more irrigation to do. Tree and shrub stuff started this morning. The windows for the film that we have on all of the film is on there, but on the vestibules and the doors, they have to put this anchoring around. It's a little black strip that holds it. So they haven't done that everywhere. The ionization system is complete. The intercom is like 97% done. It's completely done in the high school. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's done in the middle school. It's not done in the elementary, but we think we'll have it by the end of the week. And then we've got to do some training. In the storm shelter out there, they've done paint, first coat of paint upstairs and downstairs. They've tiled the restrooms downstairs. Millwork starts on the 15th of December. Lighting starts at the end of this week. Plumbing, toilet fixtures start middle of December. They laid about 2/3 of the concrete path that goes underneath the awning that connects here. Yeah. The reason they didn't do that all is because they've got some work to do on the other side, and they want to drive their Bobcat across there without getting on the actual deal. And finally, life is stressful. Exercise provides many benefits, both physical and mental. Exercise helps combat the challenges of stress and strengthens the immune system. Thanks to the Bethany Board of Education and the First Baptist Church, all employees and their families have a membership to the Family Life Center across the street from the administration building. More information on this new benefit will be provided to employees in an email tomorrow.
Oh, so they don't know about it yet.
No.
Now, that is the Nazarene Church,
That's
not the
yeah.
Baptist Church.
Did I say Baptist?
You did.
You did.
I'm sorry, Nazarene.
It's okay.
You'd think I'd know. I've been here 5 years.
He figured out how to get the Baptist to pay for it.
That's some real community work here, Drew. That's good. All right. Well, thank you for that. And with that, we will go ahead and adjourn. 8:18. Thank you. No, not bad at all.
You gotta make them sign a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I actually need your signature too.